have some Q&A to do. I hope you're doing fine, 'cause it's Q&A time again. Hello world, how's it going? Hope you guys are all doing well. If not, as always, I hope it gets better for you. Wow, that light looks laser bright. Definitely is not that bright. I don't know how to fix that. But anyways, welcome to another Friday Night Live Q&A where you can ask me questions and the community questions on keeping freshwater fish, shrimp, and plants, and just pretty much anything to do with the freshwater aquarium keeping hobby. Sometimes you can change the light. There you go. If I draw it back slow enough. It's just that exposure gets to be too much. Pull it forward a little bit. That way you guys can see there. And Candy Overhauls, thank you so much for the super chat, and great to see you this Friday. You were definitely missed last Friday, and thank you for reminding me about live chat. And what's funny about it is I did forget to get in live chat last Friday, so you're very missed, Candy. But thank you so much for being an awesome mod and for joining me on these Fridays. Thank you. I could never thank you enough. And hello everybody in the chat. So I don't see any questions off the bat. And I guess, yeah, if you guys see my video, what was it, 2 days ago, about what happened with the shipping, that was pretty crazy, but it's just one thing we got to grind through. We'll get there. It's actually looking up. The reflection's so much better now. Definitely glad that our animals, fish, shrimp, all that, we're safe and didn't have to worry about that, but we will get them out to you. My biggest concern was getting heat packs that will go over to the west coast, because sometimes it takes 4 days. I try to at least get 96-hour heat packs. Got a hold of some 110-hour heat packs, so that was great. So there's been a few silver linings into this whole fiasco. And also got a hold of the Reef, a local fish store here in Indianapolis. Awesome local owned business. It's nothing but fish. That's all they do. They've been in business forever. And a really great place. They took some of my shrimp, and that helped offset like the loss of the heat packs and all that stuff. So that was big. And I appreciate a lot of you guys, well, all you guys watching and commenting in the comments in the last video. And many of you have been awesome. I know I didn't go around and heart them and like them and stuff like I should, just because it gets conflicting sometimes, where I feel like, oh, if I don't hurt this guy's, then this guy might get offended or whatever. But I do read your guys' comments, and some of you guys have added on to your orders or threw in some tip jars, and I appreciate you guys so much. So thank you all for the support during these trying times and keeping this small business alive. So I can never thank you guys enough. Alright, now I see some questions here. How long did it take to open those boxes? So I spent all night last night doing it, and then that's when I was thinking, I'm like, I'm unboxing all these, I gotta unbag all these. I might as well call the local fish store and see if they need anything, because there's a chance that they may not have got their shipments. They got their fish shipments and their plants, but they haven't got much for shrimp. And this actually might be a weekly thing, so that could be a really good silver lining. I just got to get my shrimp count up to do something like that. So it all works out. Like when things happen, when life hands you lemons like that, if you can think of a way to think outside of the box and try to make lemonade out of it, all the better. And I still got to unbag a bunch of these. I'm a night owl, so I'm usually up during the night and sleep during the day, and it works out for Sarah and I's schedule as far as with Wesley. It's just the way it rolls. So tonight I will be dealing with a lot of that stuff, but at least I don't have to unbag a lot of the shrimp that I thought I was going to have to. Here Fishy says, just got my first CBDs and I want to breed. Best life tips. Best life tips for CPDs or just for life? That's a tough one. But I do got a CPD breeding video. If you go to my breeding fish playlist, Just type in LRB breeding fish playlist, and it will give you some great videos on how to breed CPDs, from raising up to eggs and everything. CPDs are a lot harder than what a lot of advice and articles will read too. Matter of fact, there's this guy down in Texas named Patrick, and he's another YouTuber, and Patrick Neary is his name, and he actually had some CPDs that survived during the winter fiasco that happened down in Texas. So I thought that was super intriguing, considering they're usually known to be warm water fish, like in shallow waters. They really love their shallow waters. But if you want to know how to breed them and like every little bit about them, hit up that video for my CPD breedings. And there's a ton of fish breeding on that playlist. I noticed a lot of my videos that are being promoted right now are mostly like my Friday Night Live videos, because I've been smashing out a lot of those. But it seems like a bunch of the fish room tours and the tips and tricks and stuff like that, and the breeding ones, are kind of getting buried anymore. And that's where the gold really lies within this channel, as far as like the real information, the real cool stuff. I mean, granted, these Friday Night Live streams have a bunch of information as well, but it's not as visual as some of these other videos are. Not as in tune to one specific thing. This is kind of all over the place. But Ted K, holy moly, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Ted K. The Heat Pack Super Fun. I am rooting for you and Sarah. Peace. Well, peace to you, bro. And thank you so much for helping out with the Super Pack Heat Fun, or Heat Pack Super Fun. I really, really appreciate that, and thank you so much, Ted. You guys are too awesome. From one curly mustache to the man, or to another, you're the man. Thank you, thank you. Benjamin DeWald, thoughts on keeping rocket killifish in outdoor tubs over the summer to breed? The trickiest part is they're going to be jumpers, so if you are using a tub or any kind of whatever you decide, just make sure you're only filling it to about halfway full, because they're going to want to jump out, and you're going to want at least, I would say, probably 8 to 12 inches for them to not jump out of it. Because if they go after bugs off the top of the water and they just like skeet over the cross of it, over the top of it, yeah, you don't want that. So that would be the only thing I would worry about. And then possible predation from birds, but I don't know. It depends on where you're at. As long as you don't have like a flock of crows that are coming over the top of your pond and seeing them dart around. I don't know if crows really get into the water, but I'm sure there's some birds that might fish them out, because they do sit at the top of the water. Something to think about. And then also always the raccoons. You gotta watch out for them rascally raccoons. And Muddy Waters, glad to see you around, buddy, and thank you so much for the membership. Muddy Waters, always great to have you around. Ron Foss, Fish Housekeeper Aquarium. Have you ever seen greenish clearish algae in a Caridina tank with CO2, 5 degrees GH, 0 to 1 DKH? So the green clearish algae, possibly cyanobacteria, may not even be an algae. Check out cyanobacteria, see if that may be the cause. And if that is the cause, then, and it can happen in those situations very often, or with those parameters and the CO2, because it really could happen in any tank. You can cure that with general cure, because it's actually a bacteria. And scrolling. I'm sorry if I'm missing some of you guys' questions. I'm doing my best here. Biscotti Nunya, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Biscotti says, tips on removing green water with shrimplets in it. So the best thing to do with removing green water with shrimplets in it is to lower your light level. Either kick back the cycle and or raise the light up off the water, because you're just getting way too much light in there and way too much nutrients in there. Often, especially if we use that really nutrient rich substrate that can be often used for Caridina shrimp. It's just loaded with nutrients, and that gets into the water, and if it has way too much light and not enough plants, then it could grow a lot of algae. So keep those tanks dim, especially with shrimp. They kind of like the dim lighted tanks. They don't like a bunch of light blaring on them so much. And yeah, that's about the best thing you can do, and then have your regular water changes. Now, you don't always want to try to pull out, like, you could pull out a ton of the water depending on how seasoned it is, like almost 80 to 90%. But I found out when you do that, it just keeps coming back stronger and stronger, because that green water stuff will actually, it becomes like an algae on the bottom of the substrate, and it'll come up, and when you do your water changes, it just raises into the new water column, and it just absolutely takes over. So I found that it's better to just stay with 25 to 50% water change balanced while changing those lighting settings, and or any fertilization. If you're doing any fertilizations, I would stop your fertilization, and always add more plants. If you got more plants in there, you can combat that as well, because they're going to be absorbing all those nutrients. Matter of fact, I've had an algae problem in here for the longest time. I just recently put reishi in here. It's this top plant, really hard to see. Let me flip you guys around. But you can see it there. That's going to absorb, hopefully absorb a lot of the nutrients from these fish, because they got a lot of waste going on. Plus, I feed them a ton. So I'm just constantly trying to put plants in here to battle them. But they also like to eat my plants. And this log does not help, because it's a soft wood log and the organics break down. But there are actual worms and everything within the substrate that helps. But it's a battle. I kind of like having the layer of algae though. If this was a breeding tank, this would be awesome. This stuff is what fish love to breed on right here, if you're a breeder. But there are ways to combat that algae with usually just more plants and less light. And holy moly, lots of big super chats over here. Muddy Waters, thank you so much for the $22.22 super chat. You know I love those numbers. Says long time no see. Yeah, it feels like it's been a while, buddy. And glad to see you back around and having you as a member. And thank you so much for the super chat. I hope everything's going well for you. You know, some crazy times out there right now. And Chris Pinto, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Bro Tato, we would have hooked you up with 25, but I gotta build back up my stripper fund. Opening back up any week now. Hashtag Fish Jesus. Well, you always got to keep your hopes up there, Chris. Bro Tato. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the super chat, and always great to see you as well, buddy. I remember seeing your name in one of those orders too, so we'll get you taken care of here soon. And Rambo, awesome. Got Rambo in the super chat here, throwing down 10 pounds. Says, keep up the good fish work. I watch you all the time here in the UK. Well, that is awesome. Didn't know Rambo was kicking it in the UK now, but great to have you in here, and thank you so much, Rambo. Love your movies. Great movies, especially the second one. The second one was good. If you guys haven't seen the second Rambo, definitely recommend that one. Thank you. And scrolling for questions here. I'm kind of going upwards. I'm not seeing a whole lot of them. All right, so I'm going to be at the bottom here soon. So if you got the question, throw it out there. Jerry Serpel Morris says, I just pulled my banjo cats indoors. They've been outdoors for around 6 months. Should I medicate or quarantine for a couple weeks before adding them to my 60-gallon display tank? I would definitely quarantine them. I wouldn't medicate them, but I would definitely quarantine them. I would quarantine them for a month. Usually if there's a sign of anything, it'll show within a month. So if it hasn't shown signs in a month, then you should be safe. Then if it shows signs like through 3 weeks, then take care of it and then give it time again to make sure that it doesn't mess with the rest of your fish. But whenever I bring fish in, I'll just quarantine them for some time. If I don't have to use meds, I won't use meds. Meds aren't cheap either, especially certain ones. Scroll. What's the substrate in that tank? This substrate is a mix of all kinds of stuff. So it's got like Eco Complete in it, some rocks, pebbles. It's got Brightwell substrate. I think the Brightwell is what's causing a lot of this algae growth, because that Brightwell is super mineral rich and it doesn't help. Along with all the food, along with all the waste, along with the lights really aren't so bad. It's not really that bright because it's a deeper tank. But yeah, there's just so much algae, and I haven't really trimmed it. If I would trim it and really like place the plants and kind of reboot it more, it would work a lot better. But I think it's kind of fun sometimes to naturally try to get it to switch without having to do all that work, by just trying certain things to balance it back out. Like, I am getting some new growth, and the way you look at it too to make sure that it's actually doing anything any good is here you can see some nice new growth on these plants. Same up on the top, but you can see where, like over here, it's still trying to fight that algae. Like, that algae wants to take over the new growth as soon as it grows. So that's a big trick too. But this should help absorb from that. And like, this log's just covered in BBA. But you don't really see a whole lot of BBA on the plants either, because the BBA actually likes more inorganic stuff to stick on, preferably. And then the green, I don't know, is that like green beard algae? It's not often that the green hair algae will stick on leaves like that either. It's kind of intense. That's why I don't know if this has a lot to do with that part either, from the organics of this. But you can see the fern, there's some new growth. If you're seeing new growth, you're on the right step. Then I could be trimming back all that other algae plants and then giving it a lot better chance, but there's only so much time in a day. That's my biggest problem. It's time, energy, and all that jazz. Get that light set. There we go. See how it kind of worked. There you go. Yeah, try it. Oh well. Alright, Andy M, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Said adding to the heat pack fun. Well, thank you so much, Andy. Always great to see you in here, and thank you again for the support, brother. The Lions Den, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says thanks for being fishy. Well, definitely fishy over here, that's for sure. Lions Den, appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. Craig Quinn says, is there a live food I could leave to reproduce in my tank like a natural food supply for my fish in the same tank? So yes, blackworms. I actually use blackworms in a lot of my tanks. I would just mention that there's, if I were to dig up this substrate and kick it up, it would kick up a bunch of blackworms. So time to time, my cory cats get snacks out of them. Sometimes the fish will get a snack out of them. Scud gammarus are also really good for live foods in an aquarium, because they're really good at hiding. They can live in nooks and crannies, but they breed like crazy. And it doesn't give them like a constant, sustainable food for like long term. But if you have plants in there as well, because a lot of fish are omnivores too, there's other plants that you could use. So technically they're live as well. Like this Rhetia, these rainbow fish will eat this floating plant as well, but I've got enough in there that it can outgrow what they eat. I feed my barbs guppy grass all the time. And yeah, definitely you can use, one of my favorites is blackworms though, because it gets into the substrate, helps aerate it, helps with the nutrients as well. That could be another reason why this is nutrient rich, is because the worms cycling through all the waste and doing their thing. If you know anything about gardening, like the stuff that worms create is like gold to dirt. And I've actually got a tank in here which I did seed. I'll get to these super chats too real quick, because holy moly. Here you can see some of these blackworms. This is what I'm talking about, and you can order these from either your local fish store or you can get them from online. Eastern Aquatics is a good place to get them from. But I actually just feed these guys Tetra Color Tropical Granules like everything else. But if I ever want to get any of these seeded into another tank, and shrimp will actually eat off of these too. But I'll get like a piece of foam and then I'll put food on top of that, and then they all go into the foam. Then I can just move it over to say here, and then after the food's gone, they're just gonna start seeding out into the tank. So I absolutely love those. And holy moly, Christopher Clays, thank you so much for the $100 super chat. That's huge. That is huge. Says word. Well, word to you, brother. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I just biffed that. Oh no, they're everywhere. That's my table. It's this old house plant thing. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to close that without ruining it or what. Threw me off there with that huge super chat. This is actually kind of interesting catalog. Old school house plants for like the 70s. Zoom. Alright, get situated back here to get that close. Oh, wrong way. There we go. But thank you so much, Christopher. I appreciate it. And glad I can inspire you, brother. That's what I'm here for, to help teach you guys and inspire and just share my experiences, because if I were to do all this and not share it, it would just all be in vain. It'd be kind of silly. So yes, definitely appreciate your support. Thank you. It's huge. And Finn Wiggles, thank you so much for your $10 super chat. Says $10 to be the first to make you say Tetra tropical granules. Well, I did say it already, but you did make me say it again, so you actually made me say it. But thank you so much, Finn Wiggles, for that. I appreciate your support again. Thank you. And that'll help get another bottle of Tetra tropical granules. That's about what I pay for it too. And Tara Yarber, thank you so much for the $3 super chat, Tara. Thank you. And make sure I didn't miss any more. Okay, I think I'm caught up. All right, scrolling. Sorry again if I'm missing your guys' questions. I do gotta hit these super chats because they're just too awesome. Danikin Aquatics, thank you so much for the $20 super chat as well. Says heat pack fun, brother. Well, thank you, Danikin. And I can't believe how many views your fish room tour has on my channel. It has gotten like almost 200,000 views or something crazy like that. It's like well over 100,000, which is really awesome. If you guys haven't seen his fish room, Danikin Aquatics, definitely recommend you guys checking out that fish room tour. He's got some really cool stuff. And it's not often that I go into fish rooms where I see a lot of fish, like I'm like, whoa, what kind of fish is that? And they had a lot of it. And they got one of the best fish stores around them too, Wet Spot Tropicals. So I'm sure they're a little bit to blame for Danny and Ken's awesome collection there, because they get a hold of some crazy stuff. But thank you, Dan and Ken Aquatics. And Thomas Glazer, always great to see you in here. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Peace, my brother. Thank you so much, Thomas, for the continued support. And, all right, scrolling. And Tiffany White, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. I hope you're doing well, Tiffany. Says, have you ever kept rainbows in an outside tub? I'm considering growing out some juveniles this summer. Yes, I've done it a lot, and they absolutely love it outside. And the colors that you get on your rainbow fish when they're outside is absolutely amazing. I would definitely recommend it. I would pretty much, as long as your weather is pretty temperament, which I'm in Indianapolis, and I've kept cardinal tetras out during the like spring, fall, summer. So it'd get down to like maybe 60 degrees, 50 degrees at night, and it didn't ever mess with them. And it could be like 90 degrees during the day. But I think as long as it's not a constant cold, it doesn't really mess with them too much. But rainbows are much more hardier than cardinal tetras. especially with temperature, if that gives you any kind of idea of how well that would work for you. In Peplin Creek Aquatics, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. It says, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? I guess it depends on the size of the woodchuck. But thank you so much, Peplin, for the $10 super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, man. Chris Pinto, thank you for the $5 super chat. Again, says, in serious need of LRB Aquatics hat. Yeah, I've got a new thing of art that actually should be done here soon. The guy who did it, Alexander Williamson of Secret History, Living in Your Aquarium, he actually got a new house, so he said it's in some box somewhere. And he's once he finds it, he'll get it sent out. So I got to deal with that, and then I should probably be re-upping all the like merch and stuff on Teesprings. I need to get like a jacket and a few things for myself as well. And yeah, hopefully we can. I don't know if they have hats or anything or not. If Teesprings does, but if they do, I'll definitely check it out and maybe make something up for that. But thank you again, Chris Pinto, aka Brotato. Let's see, and just make sure I'm caught up on all these. Northwest Zoo says, how large do you let your guppy colonies get before you start selling from them? That really depends. I would say I usually let them get to about 15 to 20 pairs or more, depending on how big the tank is. So if, say, endlers, you can keep them in a smaller tank. I don't usually do guppies so much in like anything under a 20. But the endlers, I'll go to 10s, and because you can fit a lot more of them, especially with the coverage. But if I just don't like the tank getting too crowded either, so I try to mediate both. As far as like understanding when I should sell them and when I shouldn't, and when I should hold them and when I shouldn't. And I also keep multiple tanks going too, because you got to kind of mix up the blood every now and then, because if you constantly breed the same colony over and over and over and over and over again, the wild colors will start coming out of them, and it could actually downgrade the genetics of a line. That's actually a big battle within the endlers and guppies. So a lot of people, what you could do too with that is you could only have like, say, a pair or two of guppies, but then make sure you're always separating out their fry. But then again, you're gonna want to be able to back up your line or your guppies, or move to a different type of guppy. So there's multiple ways to do it too if you don't want to just colony breed either. But colony breeding is so much easier. And you can get some really cool stuff out of colony breeding. Especially with like the change-ups. Man, I've got some endlers I have got to get to work on. There's these ones with this black and yellow zigzag tails and blue and orange and black body that just look freaking amazing. That I have definitely got to work on that. How much do you water change all your tanks? So I would love to do like 50% every 2 weeks, or like even 25% every 2 weeks, or even in between that, somewhere around that. Doesn't really matter. It's just usually there's something about the 2 week period. I think it's the way that the water cycles and algae molecules cycle and whatnot, that once it gets to that seasoning of 3 weeks, that's why they often recommend that you wait 3 weeks before doing water change so it gets seasoned and cycled. That is, if you can maintain that 2 weeks before that cycle recycles. It's kind of weird though when you really think about it, when you're keeping real natural aquariums and you want that new water to cycle. It's just, there must be some balance in between all that. That's just like the money spot. That if you stay on those 2 week water changes, it'll go a long way for you. But unfortunately, I mean, I could go months without water changes. I've gone almost a year without water changes, just mostly top offs. Now, when it comes to breeding out fish, though, especially like rainbow fish and other fish, big reason why I haven't bred out a lot of rainbow fish is you do want to push those water changes because you can get your growth a lot better from those types of water changes, big water changes. But with like guppies, antlers, shrimp, all that stuff, plants, they could care less about the water change. Finipper J Puddle, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Finipper says, sorry to hear about the post office madness. Can you put 1-inch Chilinothernia rainbows with adult rainbows? That's kind of a gamble. That's a gamble. I would definitely try to grow it out more, especially if it's, yeah, even if it's male or female, because it could get outpowered. Although rainbows are mostly known to being peaceful, they can get a little rowdy with each other, especially with the smaller ones. It's just their nature. But yeah, I would definitely grow them out in something else first. Do those water changes like I mentioned, and you can get it to grow a lot quicker. You guys always wake me up some. I was so about to fall asleep before I got on here. I haven't got much sleep since all this whole week. LRB may answer you, but scuds might be good. They can live in a tank. Yes. But then people complain because they never go away, or seed shrimp ditto. Yeah, if you're keeping like scuds in a tank like this, it's never going to matter to you because you're never really going to see them. But they will eat them. They'll see them. You'll see them whenever you pick out your plants or something like that. Or maybe decor, you'll find some as you're doing some maintenance. But for the most part, you'll never see them. Now, if you have a shrimp tank or something, that's the complete opposite. If you had scuds in with a shrimp tank, they're going to actually compete together because scuds are kind of like a shrimp. And Papa Shrimp Aquatics, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says happy Friday. Well, happy Friday to you, brother. Thank you so much, Papa Shrimp. Always great to see you. And you're down in Texas too. I hope you're doing all right down there. I believe you're down in Texas. Xanadu, thank you so much for the $5 super chat as well. Xanadu, great to see you in here again. So sending love to all of you fish fan folks. Apply merch, hats, a mug too, please. Well, definitely check out Teesprings. I think I do have the mugs. And yeah, much love back to you, Xanadu. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And scroll. Make sure I didn't miss any of those. Gonna have to speed scroll. Brown, break out the gamer finger. Let's see. Looking for those questions. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom because I have no clue where I'm at on this chat. Alright, I am at the bottom. So, if you got one, throw it down there. Dr. Black 66 XDD. That's funny. Chris Pinto, can I add to my order? You could always add to your order, Chris Pinto. Just hit up Sarah at lrbaquatics.orders@gmail.com and she'll take care of you, Chris. We'll definitely hook you up, bro. I appreciate that too. And I did end up adding more to the website because I did get an ideal of what I was still working with as far as quantities. So I can still fulfill orders, just be prepared for delayed shipping. I don't think we're going to try to ship next week because I feel as if it's already going to be full stock. They're already talking about not knowing if they can start doing it until Monday. So I'm sure everybody who plans on trying to catch up is going to try to catch up then. But hopefully, definitely that next week after. And I've got the heat packs and everything to do for us. So we're all prepared on everything and it's good. It's good. It's funny how life works out as long as you just, I guess, trust in it, believe in it. I don't like to say believe because I often say believing is like you're believing yourself, like you're leaving yourself to be something else. But it's crazy how life works. It's really funny. Tom Bennett says, LRB, how do I get rid of planaria in a shrimp tank? So far, I've had only tried manual removal during water changes. Yeah, manual removal can pretty much be impossible. It's really, really tough because if you break up that planaria, they can actually regenerate off of just a cell. So if you mush any of them, you can end up with 100 more from just mushing one. So what you can use is Pancure Dog Dewormer, Pancure C. It's a powder form of fenbendazole. And what I like to do is, well, you get 0.1 gram per 10 gallons, and I like to crush it up into like a container, add a tiny bit of water so it doesn't really fill it up, but it's wet enough to like mush all the medicine together. Then you can stir it into the water, add more water. And that'll take care of your planaria. Wait 72 days or 72 hours after doing that, and then repeat it until they're gone. Sometimes it usually takes like 2 tries of that dose method, if not up to 4. I've seen it take up to 4 before, but usually it takes up to 2. Sometimes it has, I don't know if it's different planaria or just heavier cases or why it'll take longer than some others. But once again, that's Pancure C Dog Dewormer, 0.1 grams per 10 gallons, and 72 hours, 25% water change, repeat. And Andrew Morris, thank you so much for becoming a member, Andrew. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I know I haven't done a whole lot for the memberships, but who knows? One day maybe I will. It's just balancing that time right now. That's the trick. And there are things that I am planning on working on for this summer to help with all that. My biggest trick was I had a helper and then I didn't have a helper, so that really caused some issues as far as my workload. But we're creating different procedures and protocols to help fix that. Patrick Nedley, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It says, do you still have the orange fin hill trout? Do you think a smaller group could be kept with rainbows without issues? Such a pretty fish. So yes, I do still have them. And if they could still be kept with rainbows, at certain sizes they can be. Like when they're smaller, I think when they just get bigger, they do get beefier than the rainbows, and they can just kind of push the rainbows around. Granted, I had a huge group of those and the barbs on top of it. I don't know if you've seen the Fishocracy episodes about the whole drama that came about that tank with the hill trouts and the rainbows. But it was really interesting because they got along for such the longest time. I'm pretty sure you have seen those because I kind of recall you commenting on a couple of those videos. And yeah, it's pretty much that situation is what I experienced. Was finally whenever they got to a certain size. I don't know if they got territorial, if it was breeding, or what was going on, why they started battling each other, but there was like this breaking point. It was really crazy. And granted, they have a lot of space in that 125 too. That's another thing to keep in mind, is just giving them enough space to do their thing. And they are an absolute gorgeous fish for sure, especially with rainbows. But thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate the super chat, and always great to see you in here. Do you have any idea when you'll have neon rainbows back in stock? I have a few growing out. I do have a few backed up, but I just haven't actively been breeding them enough to feel comfortable about letting them go yet. And that's what really bites about that big tank that just busted on me not long ago. Was the fact that was going to be my rainbow making machine, because I was just going to move water like crazy to grow those rainbows out, because I have a ton of those tanks where they just have babies growing up off the top of them all the time, but I don't really have anywhere to truly grow them out properly. And it's hard for me to grab them out if I can't truly grab them out or grow them up properly with the water changes that they need. Granted, I will still stick them in other tanks and let them do their thing, but the growth rate is so slow. They will grow, it just takes so much longer. Love your channel. Ever kept a pistos? I have kept a lot of pistos back in the day. And they're fun to keep. They're definitely more of a species only kind of tank fish, unless you got like a huge community tank, and I'm talking about 125, 180 gallon tank where you got like this, that, and everything in it. You can get away with the pistos in a community that way. It may be tricky to feed them. Always keep that in mind because they can be a little slow at eating depending on the fish that you have in there. But as far as breeding, they're super fun to breed. I always like to use the bottom of a clay pot to put their eggs on. That way you can either move them away from the parents or take your gamble and chances for the parents to be good parents, which sometimes takes them multiple chances. And they do like that warmer and softer water. Can you kicks breed different gouramis? Like mix them? I don't know if you can or not. Oh, mixed breed gouramis. I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't really heard anybody or anything of it. It's a good question. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. But I think a lot of them are different families or something. Angelfish question, do the fry become weaker with age of the parents? Do the fry become weaker with age of the parents? I guess it all depends on their diet. They should be becoming stronger. I mean, anytime that they're growing, any angelfish. Angelfish question, do the fry become weaker with age of the parents? I mean, if the parents get too old after a while, just like anybody or any fish or any animal, the older they get, like there is a tipping point where you do start getting into your geriatric stage or your elder stage that you're not as much of a spring chicken. Happens to pretty much all animals that I know of. Joe, I'm sure there's some exception out there because that's Mother Nature for you. But let's see. Joe Shively says, anyone have tips on getting a pistos to breed? I've tried live food, cold water changes, and berry manilow. A plenty to no success. Thank y'all. So yeah, sometimes pairs just don't get along together. Sometimes it's easier to even just do them in a smaller space and not really have a whole lot in the tank. Maybe have like a few plants here and there, but always make sure you're not feeding where you're breeding. So if you have your breeding set up like the clay pot, where what I would do is I'd have the clay pot down halfway in the substrate. That way they have like a cave to get in and out of. And then put the bottom of the clay pot like near that so they can go spawn on it. Keep them in high temps. They love the mid 80s, low to mid 80s for breeding like that, and the softer acidic water. That'll help out your eggs, especially with any kind of bacterias or funguses and just even hatching so the eggshell doesn't get too hard. And live foods always help. And make sure you feed on the opposite side of where you keep that breeding setup. But sometimes it just takes time. I mean, that's the thing with fish. You can play all the berry manilow you want, but if they don't want a tango, and it just sometimes takes time. James Hand says, do you monitor your nitrates? So I don't monitor my nitrates. I have tested them a while back. Haley of Oddball Aquatics actually tested them. She was always curious, like, she was always wondering what was going on with them, and we tested them. There wasn't really much for nitrates or anything in the aquariums because it all just kind of naturally balances itself out. All that beneficial bacteria in there, that helps keep all that stuff at bay and equalize. Same with the algae. Like when you see algae is actually saving a lot of us. As much as many of us have issues, or well, some of us have issues with algae, it's actually saving a lot of our butts when it comes to fish keeping. Because anytime there's an excess or imbalance of certain things, that algae will help take care of that for you. And if that algae didn't help take care of that for you, then We'd be in a lot worse hurt, especially in the whole world scheme of things. My God, algae has saved us from so much. You would be surprised too, the power of algae. Have you guys ever looked into the algae bioreactors and stuff that they have? That stuff's actually really interesting. Also, I mean, some people even eat the stuff. There's a whole market on growing algae and reselling it. It's kind of crazy. Same with duckweed. Supposedly, you can create tons of energy off of duckweed and protein and nutrients, which is really wild. Duckweed, in my opinion, is almost like an algae. The way it grows and takes care of nutrients. And, alright, once again, since I kind of went on a long rant there, I'm going to try scrolling down to the bottom. So I feel like I am way behind. Did somebody just say, want a helper? Oh, what helper? That was Oddball. Oddball Aquatics, she was my helper. No more. She left me for aquatic arts, I mean. Shark K says, okay, is it still combined even though the receipt only shows the first order? Oh, talking to Lady LRB. Knight Rider, why do rice fish fry grow so fast? I don't know, good question. Sometimes it's just in the genetics on how fast they grow, depending on the season and where they come from and just the nature of them. Farm Fish and Freedom says, hey man, I just got some rice fish. Is there any easy way to sex them? That's a really good question. I got some rice fish over here. Let's see if we can figure that out, because I honestly don't know off the top of my head. Let me see. I mean, I know the females usually are chunkier, but that's at adult size. I mean, they're pretty... These are Indian rice fish, but for the most part, most rice fish are the same. And you can see they got little babies in there with them. Yeah, they look the same to me. There's probably like some difference between the anal fins or something that I don't know of. But for the most part, they all look the same. So that's why I figured it's always best to try to colony breed them. Look at these guys. Those fins are crazy. Crazy fins. These guys are maniacs. Nom 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 nom. I swear they would eat me if they could. If I could fit in their mouths. Ain't that crazy? Those are the volcano guppies. These are actually Arctic guppies. Took a while for me to figure out what they are. They're so rare. Alright, okay. T-Shot, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, hey Lucas, I never get to catch your live stream, but I always watch after the fact. I appreciate you sharing all your knowledge. I've learned a lot. Well, thank you, T-Shot. I'm glad I could help you out, and I appreciate the support, buddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How do you sex Oranda goldfish? I have no clue. Maybe somebody in the chat can help you with that. I don't know. The goldfish is still... That's actually one that is not well versed within my vocabulary of fish keeping. Is the goldfish. I think people baby them a bit as far as the hobby goes. For sure, definitely. Especially with like the temperatures and heating and stuff. There's this... It's a video I got. I love the comments on this video because it's called the Canadian President's Fish Room Tour or something like that. And obviously Canada doesn't have a president, they have a prime minister. But he's the president of the fish club there. So that's why I titled it President. But I just love how the comments go crazy and try to correct you, and the Canadians get a kick out of it. But anyways, he had a really awesome goldfish tank where he had like this white sand and he'd keep a golf ball in it. He said that they'd play around with the golf ball and stuff. Really cool. I would like to have a goldfish tank. Just the hobbyist side of me for sure. But you got to have a big tank, I think, with those goldfish because they do have a lot of waste, and which you can combat that with plants and whatnot. And they like the swimming room, and it's just cooler to watch a bunch of them together instead of just a couple. But I absolutely love goldfish. I'd like to get in the. That's one I should probably dive into at some point. Ugh. Why you have to talk about Oranda goldfish? I'm kind of eyeing those. Not just necessarily either just Orandas, which those are awesome too. There are so many cool varieties. And Carol Cox, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Always great to see you. Carol says, can you lose your cycle in a low pH tank and have ammonium issues? How do you handle this and not stress the fish? So, it is possible to lose your bacterial bio load in a really acidic condition, real acidic soft condition, just because there are different bacteria that also grow in different pHs in acidic situations. So saying this, especially if you go from one extreme to a other, it could crash it. If it's more of a gradual thing, it can kind of take care of itself. But there probably is a point where it does become too much. And whether it causes ammonium, I guess it all depends on what's going into it, how much of that bio load is able to take care of what you're putting into it. So if you feel like there's not enough bio load to be in there to take care of it, maybe put more stuff in there to hold more bio load, like plants or something. Mosses, they hold a lot of mold and beneficial bacterial bio loads that can help with that sort of thing. And I don't know, you could always try to raise it a little if possible. But I haven't really seen any real situation myself personally in an experience to where I've went too low in pH. But I also have hard water naturally with my aquariums. I have run RO water with sphagnum moss, and I've gone pretty soft. But the only issue I actually see with fish when it comes to going from the hard to soft is if it's the extreme to the fish. Like if you're going straight to hard to the soft, like they just can't handle it. It stresses them out. Like whether it just be their skin coat or just a beneficial bacteria, enough of it being in there that they're not used to. But usually in any processes within nature, as long as it's gradual, it's not as hard to do. So I don't know. I hope that helps you out. I don't know exactly the kind of issue you're having or what you're seeing there. But yeah, definitely watch your fish, and your fish will tell you the story more than anything by eyeballing your fish. But you can go pretty soft. You'd be surprised. And then some fish just don't like it. The acidity can burn their skin. Like their slime coats just can't keep up with it. Is there a good rule of thumb? And thank you again for the super chat. Thank you so much, Carol. Is there a good rule of thumb as to what fish like hard water versus soft water? Here, fishy. So, if you really want to worry about it, or if you wanted like everything in one aquarium, like you wanted like that all-time great community tank with all your favorites, and some are soft, some are harder. Anytime you stick around neutral 200 TDS, then you're good. pH, I don't chase pH. pH to me is a goose chase. I quit looking at pH a long time ago. You can get so many misreadings off pH, and then you go do this and that, and you start messing up stuff and putting too much human error into it. Because it can also measure per hydrogen, so it depends on the oxygen levels within your aquarium and all kinds of other different factors when it comes to pH. So if you're looking for the neutrality and acidity or alkalinity of your water, I definitely recommend a TDS tester, which is mostly a combination of your GH and KH. And as long as you're in a 200 TDS, that's more neutral. So you're not really alkalytic, you're not really acidic, you're like right there where you need to be. It's a sweet spot. And that goes along with shrimp too, caridinias and neocaridinias, if you were to try to keep them together. And usually too, like the hard water, there's not any fish that I know of that are like absolutely, they got, well, guppies really like the harder water. But if you're just a little under neutral, like say 180 or something, that's not going to make a lot of mess. So what happens is when you do go into the more acidic level and at the more neutral level, is the minerals in your aquarium are actually going to break down more and more too. So the water's soft enough to break that kind of stuff down. Same with your fertilizer. That's why fertilizer works better in a softer water aquarium. That's why the real fancy aquascapes and those really nice plants that are just super colorful, which granted there's some variations you can keep in hard water, but they tend to do best in soft water because that softer water is breaking down that mineralization for their consumption. That's also something to think about too when you're keeping and maintaining those sorts of aquariums, because as time goes by, the plants can actually strip away some of that TDS by eating up the mineralization. So if you start topping off with just soft water, eventually that tank's going to get softer and softer. I remember these tanks, which are super hard to see because of the brightness, that are full of shrimp. I mean, many of those got underneath 200 because I was just kept topping them off. That pylomoss was eating up the mineralization, and after you get to that certain point, that acidity just tears into all those nutrients. So that would actually probably help me with my algae problems in here as well. If I were to run this tank a little softer, which I could, it's a little more work for me to do, so I don't really do so. But it actually helps so much with the plant growth in there as far as working through those nutrients and growing bigger and faster and stronger as far as plants and out competing the algae. So if you can understand that kind of stuff, that can take you a long way into this hobby, because you're thinking about how the water actually works with what's going on in it. Then you add into the beneficial bacteria and the bioload as far as how it helps with all the other extra chemistries. Oh boy, see, she's talking and letting loose about these dart frogs. I didn't know they were so noisy. Are dart frogs that noisy? I don't know. I guess it would still be cool to hear some frogs in the garage. Maybe, I don't know. What's the best way to calm fish aggression? So there's different ways. So you got to think about fishes and their personality too. So all kinds of fish, even the same type of fish, they all have different personalities, whether they're the same type of fish or not. So I guess it depends on the personality of the fish and just watch its behaviors. So if you can figure out a way to disrupt its aggressive behavior without adding any extra aggression, whether it be just feeding on a different side of the tank, like maybe feed your one fish, more aggressive fish over here, feed the rest over here, or maybe even like this tank, I feed the whole line of this tank. Because if I were to feed in one spot, they're all just like gang, trying to take each other out. And if I feed across the whole tank, then I don't have to worry about that so much, because it's more split out. So that can help with aggression. Divisions within decor of your fish tank that kind of break up territories as well, that can help with aggression. And even timeouts can help. Scolding them sometimes, like, hey, where I've had sometimes where the fish were just aggressive to each other, And each time he'd do something, I would make sure I was up on him, like, hey, no, no, no. Where you get it into their mind, like, hey, no, this isn't. They get directed otherwise. That actually works too. And once again, sorry if I am missing your guys' questions. I cannot keep up here. Doing my best. Maria Simonson says, do you have any cool Tetra breeds you could show us in your fish room? I do have some Tetra breeds. I have a really cool rare one that's in the garage, but you can't even see them because they're like buried underneath pennywort right now. But there's one, like, I can't even remember the name of them now. Starts with an M. Really off the chart. Tetra. I got them from Danican Aquatics. He sent them to me from Wet Spot. Which, if you want some crazy rare Tetras, check out Wet Spot's Tropicals. They have some crazy, crazy rare Tetras. I love Tetras. Tetras are actually one of my favorite types. Alright, looks like we are over the hour mark. Once again, sorry if I missed your guys' questions. I did my best here. I do got to get to feeding these fish, and myself, I am ready to go to bed. But I can't, I got to deal with these bags and whatnot. Ugh. Like, I got like 2 hours of sleep yesterday. Well, this morning. I went to bed at, what was it, like 6 o'clock this morning. Had to get up at 8 to call the reef. And I tried to go back to bed like maybe 10, 11. Then I got like a phone call in between half of that. And yeah, now I'm here. So, hopefully I'll get caught up on some rest. And I hope you guys all have a restful weekend and a fishy weekend. Enjoy your tanks, enjoy your fish, enjoy your family. Love the life you live, because, man, we are all blessed to be living life. And yes, thank you all for watching, and thank you for the awesome support. I could never thank you guys enough. And saying that, I hope you all have a great weekend. Till next time, everybody, peace. Love y'all.